Stranger Things is a series on Netflix. A very popular series on Netflix. So popular that this introduction serves no point. So, I'll cut to the chase. You'll have noticed the misspelling of the word nutshell in the title, and that is intentional. What I intend to do is go over each character, but in a bit more depth than is typical for these types of videos. What I'm planning to do is go over how I felt about each character in the seasons they appear in, although this one is more so the writing than it is the acting, because there probably isn't a dud performance from any of the cast. Although if the acting complements the writing, I'll point to that. I'll give a rating out of 10 for how each character does per season, so if we have a character like Alexei, we'd only give 1 rating for the 1 season he appeared in, but if it's a character like Mike, then we'll give 3 different scores for the 3 seasons he was in. I'll calculate averages, and then I guess I'll have a way to easily say who my favourite Stranger Things character is. Jesus Christ, I'm boring. So, kicking it off, we have 11, a less violent/naked version of Lucy from Elven Lied. The first season was a solid start. Having her as a kind of E.T. character would have posed a challenge in expressing any kind of personality, but even without dialogue, 11 proved to actually be quite engaging. A solid 10 out of 10 in the first season. In the second season, they also did well, although the fact they had to design 7 episodes worth of contrivance to prevent her from meeting up with the rest of the gang, I'm only giving her an 8 out of 10 for season 2. However, you'll notice a trend with most of the characters in season 3, and that's how they're a bit shit. Basically, they bicker about their relationship statuses ad nauseum, so this series I'm saying 11 gets a 3 out of 10. So that's a calculated average of 7 out of 10. Now, I didn't get around to watching Stranger Things until about 5 months after it came out, so I was not caught up in the hype leading up to and immediately preceding the first season, but I assume that Winona Ryder helped out quite a bit of the marketing, seeing as she was in herself an icon of the 80s, albeit late 80s instead of the mid 80s. And thankfully Joyce is a really great character. In the first season, we gradually see her go slightly insane, but in a way that's really compelling to watch. I'd argue that her role diminishes in the second part of that series when she has to share her role more with Hopper, but the character is still worth a solid 9 out of 10. As for season 2, most of the time is spent either establishing her relationship with Bob or trying to save Will. I'm going to go over 6 out of 10 on this one, seeing as she does take initiative, but half her dialogue is just Mino wants son possessed. With season 3, her dynamic with Hopper is very entertaining. Plus, she's actually allowed to be a bit more sarcastic, seeing as she isn't tied down with looking for Will all the time, and I'd say that's a good old 8. The average score for her is 7.6 recurring. Hopper had an interesting yet predictable character arc in the first season, with him being a grizzled cop with a tragic backstory. However, he did also have decent comedic moments, which is something we'll see from him throughout all seasons, but it helps to differentiate him from the millions of other grizzled cops with tragic backstories out there, so he gets a 7 out of 10 for season 1. I honestly wasn't expecting Hopper to be the one to bring 11 back into the story. Not that it doesn't fit his character, and not that it wasn't foreshadows. It's just that there was little communication between the two in the first season, but that's what makes their newfound dynamic all the more interesting in season 2. Obviously being the less preferred character out of him and 11, in my eyes, it gave Hopper a different way in which to shine, and it worked, because I'm bumping him up to 8 out of 10 for this season. And then we have season 3. Yes, we get the best parts of his character, from protective to goofy, and then they fucking kill him. I'd argue I'm being a slave to my emotions on this one, but fuck it, he gets a 9 for season 3, and so he averages at an 8. Mike represents the leader kid archetype in a lot of Stephen King novels and 80s movies. As a result, the season which most resembles those aforementioned things, the first one, is his time to shine. His deeper relationship with 11 is kind of what fleshes out his character above Dustin and Lucas in that season, which earns him an 8 out of 10. In season 2, he starts to fall behind them, leaving him with only a 6 out of 10. And then he really falls into the same problem 11 fell into with season 3. Yes, he has motivation for acting the way he does, but we only know that motivation after it's actually explained to us, instead of being shown to us. So he gets a rating of 3 out of 10. This leaves us with an average of 5.6. Lucas is kind of in the same boat when it comes to the first season, but without the bond with 11, so I'd give him a 7 out of 10, just below Mike. But props to him, he decided to grow more of a distinct personality for the second season, and so I'm bumping him up to an 8 out of 10. But then he, like the other kids, was pretty boring in season 3. But even while caught up in the boring quote-unquote conflict between the characters, he does still inject a bit of personality, so I'll give him a 5 out of 10 for that one. Average 6.6 recurring. Dustin. Once again, a 7 out of 10 in the first season, same goes for him as it did for Lucas, and again he starts to be more distinct in season 2, but way more than Lucas, so I'm giving that a 9 out of 10. But in the third season, he really diverges away from the gang and instead gravitates towards the Scoops troop, which really elevates his character to a 10 out of 10, with him trying to act like the smart one in the face of a bunch of idiots. Plus, we all know we're Dustin. I know that relatability is never a good substitute for personality, but it doesn't hurt to have both. He averages at a whopping 8.6 recurring. At this point, he's the highest ranking, even if he is a brony. I think they could have done a bit more with Will. In the first season, he was largely absent for obvious reasons. However, throughout season 1, we got a good impression of his character from the brief moments before he was sent to the Shadow Realm and from flashbacks, enough to warrant him a 6 out of 10. In the next season, we got a few more glimpses of character, but they decided to make him come down with a bad case of plot convenience. So once again, this only secures him a 6 out of 10. And you'd think, since everyone went to so much effort to protect him, they'd actually, give a shit about him. But in Season 3, everyone kind of forgets him. But thankfully, we don't. The loneliness that we see Will go through was sad to watch, but it did show his character in an interesting light. He's a boys' locker room kind of guy in a world full of girls' locker room gossip. So that gives him at least an 8 out of 10. So an average of 6.6 recurring, although I'm disappointed they could have done more with him. Nancy started out interesting, being dragged into the conflict instead of actively going into it. She then tries to get to the bottom of things, using mainly herself, but only with minor bits of help from Jonathan and Steve. Being that she goes about things the smart yet realistic way, that is worthy of 7 out of 10 for Season 1. But next up in Season 2, she does the same thing, this time being a bit more involved with Jonathan than last time, if you know what I'm saying. But I'm giving her an 8 out of 10 for this one. Only for that scene at the end where she dances with Dustin. But I'm afraid to say it's a massive step down for her in Season 3. I'm giving her a 2 out of 10 for this season, since she also has to have some artificial romance trouble, but at least the other romance troubles in this season have the courtesy to last, more than one episode. Jonathan is drawn into the conflict in Season 1 out of his want to protect his brother. And I'll admit, it's interesting to see his outsider attitude while in high school, and I did feel truly sorry for him when Steve destroyed his camera. He was awkward, and that gets him an 8 out of 10 in my books. Season 2 spices things up for him, as he's both protective of his brother and also has to juggle this with his and Nancy's mutual feelings for each other. And so that keeps him on an 8 out of 10. But once again, he shares the same boring arc I mentioned while I was talking about Nancy. So again, that's a 2 out of 10. And so this leaves him with an average of 6 out of 10. Max showed up in Season 2 and served as the gang's replacement to Eleven, who was herself a replacement for Will. However, Max got up to speed on the situation quickly and overcame both Billy and the Mind Flayer's hub in Hawkins. I can't really remember much about her personality-wise, and so it's only a 6 out of 10 for Season 2. And once again, boring parts melodrama in the third season, giving her a 3 out of 10. So unfortunately, that's an average score of 4.5 out of 10. Billy is the kind of character who flips between extremes. He's either a complete douchebag, terrifying, or comical. We do see the majority douche side of him in Season 2, with a light injection of comedy when we see his meeting with Mike's mother. That's a lot of M's. Alliteration aside, it's only about a 5 out of 10 for that season. For Season 3, however, he's quite funny in the first episode, before becoming a decently threatening villain. After seeing his backstory and his sacrifice at the end, it does deserve an F, as well as a 7 out of 10, leaving a 6 out of 10 average. Although, on the subject of Fs, Bob, dead meme out of 10. Alexi, somewhat sizable F out of 10. Bob, substantially sizable F out of 10. Guy who gave 11 chips, biggest F of them all out of 10. Given the amount of conspiracy there is in this series, I'm kinda surprised it took him until the second season to have a conspiracy theorist in there. But I'm glad that Murray showed up, because while I can't remember much of him, he had the greatest line in Series 2. And that alone was worthy of a 7 out of 10. But then he steps it up in Season 3, being overly sarcastic, yet also just a solid guy to hang around, which gives him a 9 out of 10 for Season 3. Overall, 8 out of 10. Erica is a sarcastic, money-hungry elementary schooler who enjoys verbally abusing others. We got ourselves a live-action Hachikuji and she's fucking brilliant. 8 out of 10. Robin. She's quirky, but also funny, and also smart, and also interesting, and also surprisingly genuine. Had she been a bit more like she was in the last 2 episodes throughout the entire season, I would rank her higher, but for now she is still very worthy of an 8 out of 10. And Steve is my favourite character. An easy pick, but a justified one nonetheless. He had a really interesting character arc in Season 1, going from a Chad by means of outward appearance to Chad on the inside. He was a dick, but he made up for it, giving him a 7 out of 10 in my eyes. Then he gets a 10 out of 10 for Season 2, learning to be more caring as well as a bit smarter. And he continues on into Season 3, having a brilliant dynamic with Robin, and once again, 10 out of 10. and on average that makes him a 9 out of 10. He went from being a jock to working at a video store while getting dumped by one girl and rejected by another. Yet he always remains a joy to watch, so fuck yeah. But some of you may remember this isn't my first video about Stranger Things. Back when Season 2 ended, I made a video saying how they shouldn't do a third season, on account of there being no place they could go with the characters or plot. But this season proved me wrong, giving me great character development, gorgeous aesthetics, and, as much as I don't want to say it, a great ending. Yes, the scene where they play the only good thing Peter Gabriel has ever done with an orchestra got to me. And don't lie, it got to you as well. But, you know what? I'm now going to literally eat my words. I think I'm glad I was wrong, because Stranger Things Season 3 was actually amazing, and dare I say, the perfect way to end Stranger Things.
You thought it was over.